Now, before I conclude here today, I want to look at one more article published in the Financial Times. I think this is the perfect example of the kind of discussion that's going on today in the mainstream financial press. De-dollarization is no longer some kind of fringe concept. It is mainstream academics, mainstream economists, and mainstream financial media outlets talking about this. This was an article published in July by an FT columnist. It's titled, "The Frightening World Without the Dollar." This article noted that since Trump announced his massive tariffs on countries around the world in April, quote, "The greenback has behaved a bit like an emerging market currency rather than the world economy's monetary anchor, and there are plenty of reports that international investors are looking to move out of the dollar," end quote. Now, earlier I analyzed the research done by the very mainstream American economist Barry Eichengreen, who is really a defender of the dollar system, but he's also a realistic observer, an objective observer, and he has also noted that there's been a marked decline in US dollar dominance in recent years, and it could speed up very quickly, very soon. Well, in this article in the Financial Times, the major newspaper cited another completely mainstream neoliberal economist named Kenneth Rogoff, and he now is also sounding the alarm bells about de-dollarization. He said, quote, "I certainly see a world where the dollar is on top, but less, much less than it was. The rest of the world is going to reroute trade, reroute finance, and try to depend less on the dollar," end quote. Now, given who it is making these remarks, this is very significant. Kenneth Rogoff, or Ken Rogoff, is a mainstream economist, a neoliberal center-right economist at Harvard University. He's as mainstream as it gets. And in fact, Rogoff has constantly been criticized by economists for being a staunch advocate for austerity. He's a complete neoliberal. After the 2008 financial crisis in the US, he called for austerity, and many economists tore apart his research and all his talking points in defense of austerity. Rogoff is the voice of the status quo. The fact that now even Harvard elites like Rogoff are sounding the alarm bell about de-dollarization is a clear sign that this is now as mainstream as it gets. In the Financial Times, Rogoff said this, quote, "We are absolutely at the biggest inflection point in the global currency system since the Nixon shock to end the last vestige of the gold standard," end quote. That was in 1971 when US President Richard Nixon ended the official linking of the dollar to gold. Which had been established at the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944 at a set rate of $35 per ounce of gold. Trump is in many ways very similar to Nixon. And just like how Nixon brought into effect a new kind of monetary order, it looks a lot like Trump is doing the exact same thing. And in this article in the FT, Ken Rogoff, this Harvard economist, went on saying, quote, "Into the foreseeable future, the dollar is likely to lose market share, mainly to China's renminbi, but also the euro," end quote. He noted that, quote, "This was happening for a decade before Trump. Trump is an accelerant," end quote. This is a point that I always emphasize in my analyses. This did not begin with Trump. What Trump is doing is he's accelerating all of the previous contradictions and he's putting the pedal to the metal. The